Hey, it's Soleil, and this is episode 373 of the Orange Pill Investor. I am going to get right to it today. I got to haul ass and go get a crown. I frickin' broke my broke my tooth kind of almost in half. Not like down the middle, but like a chunk off the side broke right off. So, I got my temporary crown on and I'm about to go get the permanent one. Um But this morning was funny. I'm, like, kinda waking up, getting ready to feed the dogs, and Tim Tim messaged me about STRF, and I thought it was a fucking typo. And I'm like, "Strike?" And then I see the link, and then I see fricking Twitter is all over the fricking place. And, what's up, Howard? Yeah, it did hurt. Um So I got my bearings together and I'm like, okay, there's another preferred. And my initial kind of let me pull up my notes here. My initial kind of thought was like, why do we need another one of these things? And like the interest rate was a little higher, and then they got the weird thing where if they don't pay the dividend, it goes up more. Um, and then I saw that it didn't look like there was a conversion. So I guess it just would appeal to people who don't want to deal with having to make that decision. They just want the interest. Um, but my first, uh, yeah. So the title is kind of like, okay, next week strafe. Just like they're just using machine gun fire at this point. Just like brrrr, new product, new product, new product. Uh, whatever you can hit with a machine gun, that's what we're doing. Um, and so my initial thought was like, I'm like, why? Why do we need this when we already have one? I couldn't At first I couldn't tell if the details were different enough to uh make it into a different category because I like the Apple iPhone and the Tesla model of one category killer per category, right? So Tesla came out with their luxury vehicle and then they had some kind of roadster or something, right? And then they came out with the best SUV on the planet with the Model Y, and then they came out with a cheaper version of that. They got was it the S? Wait, which one's cheaper than the Y? SXY. Yeah, it must be the S. And then they're gonna come out with like a 25K vehicle. So that'll just destroy every other gas car in that price range. And they've got the Cybertruck to dominate the truck market. Eventually, they'll have a van, but they don't they don't need to be dumb like every other car manufacturer and have 3 sedans and, you know, 2 versions of the subcompact. That's just dumb. You're kind of competing with yourself. So my first thought was like, this product is competing with itself. But it does look like it's just different enough to be in a separate category because it doesn't have the conversion. It's got the weird additive dividend. And I guess if they were feeling some kind of, I don't know, if they were in the wrong part of the bear cycle or something, or they didn't have cash flow and they just wanted to kick the can down the road and not pay the dividends until later, I guess there's some weird flexibility with that. Um, but it looks like it's just, they're just adding more levers. And But I yeah, I'm still on the fence about it, like, I don't know if it's, like, adding fart mode to your Tesla car, like, I don't know if this is if this is a groundbreaking thing, but I do like the chaos because even though Strategy is the most transparent company in the stock market, like, the common stock shareholders know what to expect. They know what's what Strategy is going to do. They're going to try to figure out to buy how to buy as much Bitcoin as possible, but at the same time, it's pure chaos because you have no idea how they're gonna do it. Like, what are gonna be the terms of the convertible bonds? And now it's like, okay, they got this preferred stock. Oh, okay, well, that was cool. And the market hasn't even figured out what the frick is going on with it. They just did an ATM on it, and now there's another preferred, like, with some slightly different things. So, he's an engineer. He's just got more levers to push and pull, and presto changeo, look over here at this at this shiny object while there's some magic happening in the background, and he's sawing women in half and all kinds of weird shit. Um, but no, my first thought was like, this I'm like, why would they release it so soon? It just kind of reminded me of everybody was like over the moon about Trump coin, and then whoever decided to, like, come out with Melania coin right after, that was, like, an obvious rug pull because it wasn't like, "Oh, okay, well, Trump coin is special." It's like, now we can have Trump, Melania, Trump Jr., uh, Trump's 3rd cousin coin, and it was just kind of like, it shattered the illusion, and so I was like, "Well, wait a minute, is Strife rugging Strike?" But, it doesn't look like it. It does look like this is a different category. This one's for institutional investors. And so what I suspect is that when they were gauging their interest for the Strike product, there were institutional investors or there was interest in a different product. They were probably saying, "Well, what about just giving us a frickin' dividend, a higher dividend, and we don't want the conversion nonsense. Like, we don't wanna have to get converted to common shares 10 to 1. We don't even want that as a possibility." Um, so I'm just kind of guessing that when they were going through the process of figuring out the Strike product, there were institutions out there or institution level, uh, investors that were like, "We're not gonna buy Strike, but we would buy something that looks like Strife." Um, I don't know, it's gotta be the worst name ever, which by being the worst, it's so memorable, maybe it makes it the best. Like, I don't know. Is it, like, so bad it's good? Uh, so you know what? That's what I wanted to see. What I really wanna see is what happened to Strike at the open. Did it crash? Let me check the chart. So Strike, I mean, it's just sitting around 85. Um, and, like, how far could it really crash? Like, if Strike were to go down to $40 a share, now the dividend is just insanely good. So Strike kind of has a floor that other stocks may not have because of the dividend. But yeah, that's what I kind of wanted to see was like, you know, with this Strife announcement, is Strike gonna drop to like 70 a share or something? And it doesn't look like that happened. So apparently Strike don't give a fuck about Strife. It's not going to, compete as I kind of initially thought before actually pulling up the prospectus and whatever. Um, plus I asked Grok. I pasted the links for the Strike announcement and the Strife announcement, and kind of did a little contrast to compare. And I think it's basically, Grok didn't come up with anything that most of the posters didn't already know. There's the difference in the dividend. There's the convertibility or lack thereof with the STRAFE product, and, there's the increasing dividend if they don't wanna pay it out. So, yeah, I mean, at first, I was a little nervous that it was going to undermine Strike, but it doesn't look like that's the case. It looks like it is a slightly different category. I don't know if it's a difference between, like, a a two-door coupe and a four-door sedan, um, but it is definitely, gonna trade in its own category, I guess, to a slightly different group of investors. So, yeah, I can't wait. This caught me completely off guard, and I know people are gonna wanna be talking about it. But those are my initial thoughts, waking up, rubbing my eyes, and digging into it. Poor dogs had to wait for me to do my research before they got fed, so they're not happy about the new preferred stock, but they'll be fine. Um, Let me just check. I can't imagine there's anything I'm gonna do today. Um, Strategy's down a couple bucks or whatever, so that's annoying, but not really unexpected. I think people wanted people are like, "When 444?" Which I'm not sure is even really on the table. Not well, according to the prophecy, um, we might not be getting 444 on this pump, but maybe by the end of the year, if that's still even on the table at all. I don't know. I don't know what other, rules, with our are there parts 2 and 3 of the rule, like an if then, there was already one if then statement, right? If we hit 84, if we were below 84, if we were above 84, all meant that we were in a different timeline in the fucking multiverse. So, um, yeah, let me just take a quick look at this. So obviously, I have no short positions on, so my account will be taking a little bit of a hit today. But if I look at the, still up for the week, 20%, if I go back a week, and if we take a look at, if we zoom out to here, it's like, okay, maybe hopefully we'll get this will be a double bottom or something, right? Bounced off 240 twice. And as long as if this kind of stretches, we need a higher high. So we need to see above 315. And as long as as long as this low doesn't drop us back below 240, I think, we'll be trending in the right direction. But, you know, does a crash below 235 invalidate the pump? I don't know. Um, we'll see. Yeah, so nothing to do here. Yeah, there's not I can't imagine that there's actually do I want to cover? I think I still have a couple covered calls in some of these accounts. Yeah, so this covered call is still worth more than I paid for it. I'm not going to cover that and close it in the. Yep, I did close my call here already. And then in the challenge account, these are about at break even, nothing to do here, nothing to do there. This is the only one that I would potentially need to tweak. I probably wouldn't close this and roll it until it's under 50%. And if it's 50% by Wednesday, then there's really no incentive to roll it early because there's still half of the premium left to collect in it. So, I probably wouldn't roll this down unless we crash to 275. Then I might consider rolling this down 10, $15 on strikes, maybe to 285 or something. Yeah, like, nothing to do. Nothing to do there. All right, let's take a look at strategy. Or excuse me, not strategy, the 5K account. Just got some stuff expiring Friday, April 4th. Yeah, there's nothing to do here. All right, I'll take a quick look at the chats and then we're gonna have to call this short and sweet. MSTY not doing so bad. Yeah, they're still hanging in there. I'm so leveraged in my challenge account that any of these little dips are punishing me pretty badly, which is kind of to be expected. Um, and as the price dropped, I kept leveraging even more and more and more. And so I'm barely even, this challenge account is like barely even has a positive theta. It's way too small for an account this size. This should probably be 10 times this much, maybe. So holding on for dear life still. Yeah, I thought it was a typo too. Oh, people want to talk about STRF, and I'm like, we've talked about STRK enough. Like, don't we already know what this is? Yeah. Adding strike to my old man account whenever we're under 85. 9% yield and a call option is all I need. Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous how good it is if the price drops. All those income ETFs must be chomping at the bit for 10% yield. Yeah, it's kind of insane. Like some of the some of the dividend investors that I talk to, not talk to, but follow, they're discussing like, oh, can you retire on 5 million? Can you retire on um 10 million? Can you retire on how many millions do these dividend investors need? And with 10%, like if you got $5 million, that's half a million a year. That's ridiculous. Like who couldn't retire on that? It's crazy. Let's see. Lightning. What if they never want to pay the dividends? It's like a choice, pretty much. No, I think it looked like. Oh, that is a good question. So I assumed it's set to a maximum of like 18%, right? So I assumed they could only kick the can down the road 8 quarters, and then they'd have to start paying it off. So I gotta double check that. Can they just defer it forever, but then they'd be locked in at like 18% and just never pay it? The other thing about that too that I thought, well, wait a minute, if there is somebody who's counting on that money and then they don't get it, that seems like a big negative. But I can't imagine that they didn't vet out the popularity of that particular line item. So I can't imagine it's gonna turn people off, though it does seem scary. Like, if you were a retiree and you needed your quarterly dividend to live off of, and then it didn't come, that would be, uh, that would be unsettling. Let's see, was hoping we wouldn't chop down in sideways March to September. I don't learn. My January, February, and March 7s and 990s died a good death. Yeah, poor little for my homies. Arb traders are overloaded with convert paper, and with Strike being a mini convert, this pure dividend paying Strife will complete the trifecta of options. Okay. I don't know enough to even disagree with that statement, but it sounds legit. Let's see, Howard, I'd like to ask you about your experience with MSTY. Have you been in it enough to see if the return is actually new money rather than a return of your money? Yeah, and that was kind of a rumor that I I didn't really verify, but sounds reasonable enough. So, um, I can't tell. No, I can't tell. I mean, it's done. You know what I really need to check is to see if MSTY outperformed strategy. I was competing to see if it was going to outperform me, but what is my see? I started trading it in March, or excuse me, in January, I think, right? So strategy is down 4% year to date. STY. Okay, so MSTY is down 24% year to date, but you would have collected 10% payouts approximately in January, February, March. And then if you bought and dollar cost averaged in with those, you'd end up with like 30% more shares. So year to date, it looks like Misty would have outperformed strategy, except the 10% dividend that we got in February would have only been on 75% of the dividend in January. So this was probably like $3 a share, 250 a share, $1.80. So we're getting diminishing returns on the dividend as well. Yeah, I'm just trying to eyeball this. But the fact that MSTY should do better in a bear environment because all of their shorts would print does kind of make it make sense. So if Yeah, so I think year to date MSTY has probably outperformed holding spot strategy, but the real difference is going to be like, has MSTY even been around a year? So over a year, yeah. So over a year, if you held strategy over, over MSTY, there's no way that the 10% is gonna keep up. Sorry. So MSTY topped out at 44, so it's down over 50%. Strategy hit 500 and it's down 45%. Yeah, hard to tell. Hard for me to tell eyeballing this thing. I'm gonna screen these a little bit quickly, and then we're gonna have to call it. Let's see. Skeletor starting with 100,000 year to date. Strategy versus Misty. MSCY is relative. If you bought at the offering, which was 21 or 23, so entry is key. It's a month-to-month story. This week, the struggle is we have to stay under 300 strike on strategy. We have to stay under 300. Is that because of the MSTY? That's the strikes that they have, 300s. All right, I got to jump and haul ass. All right, be good, Joel.